is I, John O'Regan, the uncommon voice for the common man, coming to you today live from Shadyside, Ohio, where I find my candidate, the great John Kasich, up 5 points over our worthless Governor Ted Same-Sex Strickland, and I hope Kasich wins. Now, I want to say this right now about this nonsense, these allegations coming out of the mouth of David Grease, my Axelrod, on CBS's Face the Nation, where he basically implies that the United States Chamber of Commerce is receiving overseas funding and shoveling that money right into the campaigns of Republicans all across the nation. Now, if you ever saw that interview, you know the way that this whole thing goes down is that Axelrod says, prove to us that you don't get the money from overseas. That's right. He doesn't have any proof that they might be getting it. What he wants this organization to do is prove that they don't get the money from overseas. That, to me, is nothing short of slander, and it should be in the United States Chamber of Commerce should sue Axelrod and the Obama administration for allegations that aren't true. But if David Grease, my Axelrod, wants to talk about money coming from overseas sources being funneled into campaigns, well, let's go back and take a look at a few of them, shall we? Now, I'm going to tell you a story that you may or you may not remember. By God, I remember it, and I'm going to say it because this might be something that Axelrod and the press might want to look into if they really want to find where some of that foreign campaign money is coming from and who it's actually going to. Now, there used to be a guy by the name of Norman Shue. Now, Norman Shue was collecting money, campaign contributions from people in Chinatown. But when he was collecting that money, the amount of the campaign contributions just didn't match up to what the professions were of the people that he was collecting the money from. For example, he would receive $5,000 in campaign contributions from a waiter in a Chinese restaurant. And it just didn't make any sense because the waiter couldn't afford to give $5,000 to anybody's campaign. So when we put two and two together, we find out that maybe, just maybe, this waiter getting the $5,000 might come from an overseas source. And guess where that overseas source might have been? That might have been the Red Chinese. That's right, the Chinese giving money through a third person to a Democrat campaign. And guess whose that campaign was? That was Bill Clinton's and Hillary Clinton's campaign. The FBI wanted to talk to this guy, but mysteriously he fled the country. Imagine that. But that story was dropped. Nobody wanted to talk about that. But I remember it, and I also remember this too. When Bill Clinton was president, he had a proposal put in front of him by the Chinese government. And you know what this proposal was? They wanted to upgrade their telecommunications satellites. That's right, but they do it, they had to have technology that was produced in this country. And the Defense Department at the time went to President Clinton and said, look, don't do this, because we believe they might be able to take that technology and change the warhead amounts on their ballistic missiles. Before this proposal came out, the Red Chinese could put one warhead on top of a ballistic missile, an ICBM. But our ballistic missiles have multiple warheads on them. They were light years ahead of the Chinese as far as technology goes. But the Chinese government says, we want to upgrade our communication satellites. But to do this, we have to get this technology. Now, the technology was being run through a corporation called the L'Oreal Corporation. That's right, and guess what? They were big campaign contributors to guess who? That's right, Bill Clinton. And the Defense Department begged him not to do it. Don't do it. They begged him not to do it. But Clinton said no. He was going to take care of his buddies in the L'Oreal Corporation and therefore do a little bit of a favor for his friends, the Red Chinese. And guess what? Now, thanks to Bill Clinton the Chinese can indeed put multiple warheads on their ICBMs. Now you might understand this big Norman shoe fiasco and how this all ties in. And guess what? That's overseas money. That's overseas money from a damn communist country. And there's Axelrod accusing the Republicans of receiving overseas money from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It's absolutely ridiculous. But if you want a more recent example, let's look at one, shall we? Now, we know that British Petroleum gave close to $1 million to whose campaign? Well, that would be Barack Obama. That's right, close to $1 million. Now, we know for a fact that BP gave Obama $1 million. That's right, $1 million. Now I'm going to put something else to you, and I want you to chew on this. Remember when the Lockerbie bomber was released, and all of a sudden there was this big scandal between the British government, the Libyan government, and a big oil deal being reached by guess who? Well, that would be British Petroleum. That's right. And they released the Lockerbie bomber after the families of this attack went to the Obama administration and said, don't do it. It's wrong. And it fell on deaf ears. Now, you can't tell me that the British government, the Labour Party, and the Obama administration, and they released this guy, and all of a sudden British Petroleum cleans up, and a big deal with the Libyan government. That's $1 million, and it is a fact. Now, David Axelrod, you need to shut the hell up, because unlike the oil that was in the Gulf of Mexico, there are no microbes to suck up your financial dealings and scandals. Paper shredders don't work like microbes. They don't work that fast. But some of us, like me, won't forget it. And that's why I'm here to remind the people the true story of the financial dealings from overseas interests that goes to the Democrats. Until next time, this is your hero, your favorite Islamo homophobia, Ronald Reagan, the uncommon voice for the common man, saying this to you now. When news breaks out, my tirades break in. Until next time, over and out!